We are live. Doing a little live Google Hangout. AnalyticsDynasty.com. This is Jordan McNamara. You can find me on Twitter at McNamara Dynasty with my co-host here tonight, partner in crime, Adam.
There you go.
What's going on, man?
Not much. I'm at AJ Willie 2 on Twitter, part of Top Dog Dynasty podcast. I don't know. It's February, and I feel like talking Dynasty on YouTube Live is like our happy place. So
it's certainly a happy place. It is certainly a happy place. I feel like it is I don't know. Sometimes there's a lot going on in life, and sometimes I feel like talking Dynasty is like one of the stress relieving things.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. Long story short, the baby ended up in the hospital last night.
Oh.
Fell off the couch, had a concussion, the whole nine.
Oh, gosh.
And you know what? Like, this is a safe environment, and this is a fun environment. So it feels good to be here. Fortunately, she's okay. But,
I think we also have to share the link, by the way, so people can...
Sharing the link right now.
Okay, good.
I think I just popped it out. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just with stuff going on at work in the real world, it's like, yeah, let's talk some Dynasty. Let's do this thing. You got anything going on right now? You're in the middle of startup, right?
Yeah, we're both actually doing startups at the exact same time. I'm assuming we have some of the same players in it. Mine's more of an industry league, but it's, you're doing Trade Addicts. Mine is like a charity, part charity through Dynasty Outhouse. So, yeah, it's definitely been it's been different because I've never done one in February before. And there are a lot of good owners in it. So, it's definitely been interesting. So that's what I'll say about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's I feel like this is a good time to do startup drafts and to be trading. Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like the market's all over the place. Like if you have a strong feel for the market, like get in it right now because you can add some people. And I don't know, I'm getting in the orphan team adoption business right now. It's just it seems like I can get some good discounts on them, and then add some players that I like, and it's fun. I think this is a good time for Dynasty, really, because there's not a ton of, I don't know, I love the off season. Like, yeah, I just love the off season. You can follow us on the YouTube channel live and jump in the chat. There's a chat there. Send questions in if you want. We'll chat, do some chatting. Yeah. So I don't know. I posted out a link the other day, or a trade that I did the other day, and I'm interested that your take on it. I was surprised at some of the backlash. Not backlash might be a strong word, but yeah, some of the reaction to it. And it's funny because I'll hear people will say things about what I believe in fantasy football, about sort of my beliefs, and it's kind of funny to hear some of these narratives, because of my UTH associations and all that stuff.
Yeah, you've been getting hammered with the age thing from the UTH, which I didn't realize that was still a narrative. So
yeah, it's usually a narrative with people that haven't followed us recently, to be honest with you. Like, it's usually like, oh, I don't follow UTH because all you guys do is care about young players and rookie picks, and building depth at wide receiver, which there's some varying degrees of truth to any of that, but particularly the young wide receiver thing isn't really our thing. So this was interesting. I thought the whole reaction to this. So essentially, I adopt this orphan team. Yeah. It does the rollover to the 2019 site. And when just general strategy wise, in the book, analyticsofdynasty.com or Analytics of Dynasty, my book that I wrote, you can find it at analyticsofdynasty.com/shop. you can get it there for $30. You can do a strategy session with me for 50. In the chapter I talked about, or in the book I wrote a whole chapter on some orphan strategy, and I basically took go step by step through an orphan I adopted, and like that, I don't know, that inspired me to want to do more of it because I think it's fun. You can do different things, as long as you're not chewing up your bankroll on adopting one team. Like you can try some different things and do some different strategies and sort of zig where everyone's zag. And I like that about the strategy, about particularly that form of team building. And plus, you don't know anyone, so if you get into a league and no one really knows you, you can sort of do your thing and before people catch on. So it's a start one league, and it's relatively deep starting lineups. I think we start 11 guys. I think
that is kind of deep.
Yeah, you start, let me see here. Start a quarterback. I think it's 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end, and 3 flexes. So it's start 10. No kicker, no defense. It is a 28-man roster, 12-team league, no super flex. It's 4-point passing touchdown. Right, so all of these sort of, it's a relatively stock format. I tend to like playing 6-point passing touchdown a little bit better, just because. Excuse me, it is 6-point passing touchdown. So you do have a little bit of the quarterback premium there. The quarterback rule is it's negative 4 points for an interception thrown. That's the difference.
Okay.
So efficiency is an important thing there. But yeah, so I adopt this orphan, and instantaneously I sort of look at, hey, how do I compete? And whether that's this year, whether it's 2 years from now, what's my sort of window? How do I do this thing? And so instantly I sort of, I look at this roster, and when I started, it essentially had, I would say, 3 assets. It had Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, and Corey Davis. And that's pretty much what I would consider the core of the team. There were some other guys. Nyheim Hines was there. I had Kalen Balaj, right? Nothing really at tight end. I mean, Jimmy Graham, a couple of younger guys. My quarterback was Derek Carr. Alex Smith is one of the quarterbacks as well. Mason Rudolph. So I don't have an answer at quarterback. And I didn't really have much at running back. And, it's a relatively deeper roster with starting 10 skill position guys. So, or starting, quarterback and then basically 9 skill position guys. So I set off to make some moves. And I don't know about you. I typically, in a situation like that, I look at the most expensive piece and the most premium piece and say, what can I get for this? And sort of my process on this was, hey, Michael Thomas is great, but if Michael Thomas is my best player, maybe I can compete. But the question really isn't who's my best player. It's really who's my 3rd through 6th best players.
Yeah.
And if they aren't very good, right? I had Mike Evans, Corey Davis, and Michael Thomas, right? Players 4 through 6 4 through 10 weren't very good.
Yeah.
So I said, let me see if I can mix this up a little bit. So I send Michael Thomas to trades Michael Thomas, Nyheim Hines, who I'm just not big on, the upside of him. And I threw in Andre Holmes to clear out the rosters in 201. So it's basically Nyheim Hines, Michael Thomas, and 201. I get back Russell Wilson, Leonard Fournette, Mark Ingram, AJ Green, and 303. I felt pretty good about it, right? I think, I was looking at some of the warp data for it. I think I probably win, I would say probably about a game and a half more this year at least. 2018 games if I do that trade this year. Am I a championship contender? No. But I've got some liquidity in my roster now that I didn't have. So there was some pushback, and I thought it was interesting. I don't know. What did you think of the trade?
So first of all, you and I looked at the team before you actually took it over, and
that's right, we did. This was a couple weeks ago. This might have been a month ago we looked at Yes, you're right. I remember that.
And so it also had good draft picks too, right? Like you have 101,
I have 101, yeah.
Do you have 103 also, if I remember?
No, I have 101, and then I had 2 seconds and 2/3.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So you had high draft picks too. Initially, when I looked at it, like I really liked the core wide receivers, the ones that you had mentioned. But the problem with that is everything that you just said about players 4 through 7 or 8 or 10 or whatever it is. You had to come up with some way of getting those extra players, right? So yeah, you were either going to have to flip the draft picks, which unfortunately aren't going to net you much, or you were going to have to trade one of these guys. I'm actually surprised that you got pushback from it, because I think you did really well here. Like you got your quarterback in Russell Wilson because you had crap at quarterback, right? So the drop off from Thomas to AJ Green, yeah, I mean Thomas is a stud, but AJ Green is more than serviceable. I know he's a little older. Naeem Hines, I don't know. Did you try not to throw him in? I guess the question I would have was, can you take him and either use him during the season or flip him for something else later?
I was trying to flip him independently. Like I started sort of going before I started going Thomas. I tried to work off some of the smaller pieces.
Yeah.
And I essentially moved I was trying to get 2020 first out of Naheem Hines, and it wasn't really biting. So I figured let's try and include him in a trade that gets me some other assets.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. But I mean, I think people are down on Fournette. Like I still hear the crap about he doesn't catch passes, and I'm like, okay, well, we already know that he can be successful in a PPR league, right? Like we already saw it in his rookie year. Yeah, he had a down year. There's some stuff about him, off the field, not off the field, but with the team, maybe he's not a good teammate or whatever. But Ingram could be serviceable as well. So I mean, you added 3 starters here, really, right? You added Fournette, you added Ingram, and then Wilson's now your starting quarterback. All from downgrading Michael Thomas to AJ Green. I mean, I love it. I mean, I guess in the long term, yeah, you gave up a first round ADP startup pick in Michael Thomas, but I mean, how many more good years are you going to get out of AJ Green? 2, 3? I mean, he's going to help you in the short term for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, I don't know, the research from the book sort of indicates to me that I think that the aging wide receiver is, I think it depends on who it is, right?
Yep.
The aging, this guy's old narrative is, I think, a misplaced one, largely speaking. He will be 31, yes. I think age obviously impacts receivers differently depending on who they are. AJ Green fits the type of profile that ages better than, I don't know, a guy like Doug Baldwin, for example.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think the gap in the near term is that huge between AJ Green and Michael Thomas. That might be blasphemy, in some places, but I don't think that the gap's that huge. Just the way you look at how receivers age, it's not really productivity that goes down. It's the players that are relevant that goes down as they sort of transition into their early 30s. So, yeah, I don't think that, if AJ Green's a wide receiver 2 and Michael Thomas is a wide receiver, somewhere between, I don't know, 4 and 10 or, I don't know, 2 and 10. I don't think the gap's all that huge, to be honest with you.
No, I totally agree. And just like you said, and I obviously read your book, but I mean, yeah, I did. AJ Green is essentially, I mean, he fits the Larry Fitzgerald role or mold, right? Like, I mean, he's a high pedigree player, tested well, metrically just sound. He's definitely going to age better than the Doug Baldwins. I mean, I guess you have to worry about injury with him, but I mean, you have to worry about injury with everybody. So maybe he's a little bit more likely to get injured because we've seen a history with him recently. But I mean, if he stays healthy, I still find it hard to believe he's anything less than a wide receiver. I don't know, top 15 wide receiver even. And I know, and he's on a crap offense too, right? Like he's got Andy Dalton as his quarterback. So, no,
yeah, but we don't know right now. Like we don't know what their offense is going to be. Right?
For sure. I mean, it could be Kyler Murray for all we know.
Right.
And maybe the offense is this innovative system. It could be a top 15 offense for all we know. But yeah, I mean, I've always liked AJ Green. I still think he's got a solid profile. I don't think that I'm surprised that you got any pushback from anybody about it, because I think it was a home run.
Well, yeah, and so it's funny because I added on top of that, right? So I go from Thomas to AJ Green, which is a downgrade, no doubt, but it's, I don't think it's as big as people want to say it is. And then I sort of add on top of it Fournette, Mark Ingram, and an upgrade from Derek Carr to Russell Wilson. And people don't think quarterback's a big deal and start one, blah, blah, blah. Russell Wilson over Derek Carr is a win last year.
Yeah, for sure.
That adds you a win. And again, we talk about hidden efficiencies and stuff, right? That's an added win. And that's not even, so essentially, I don't know, Russell Wilson to, right, Derek Carr to Russell Wilson basically makes up any gap between AJ Green and Michael Thomas. And you sort of go from there and you're adding Fournette, the upside of Fournette, who I think has round one startup upside, and Mark Ingram, who, I don't know, he's entering the later stages of his career, no doubt, but I think he's still a plenty viable running back. I mean, there's some places he could land in free agency. He could be back in New Orleans. We don't know, but I still think he's got meat on the bone. So I don't know. I look at all of that, and I just when you look at the roster construction, I just don't see how Michael Thomas does enough to change your fortune at any point in the near future. Whereas I think you sort of come at it with, hey, I've got 4 guys now that can, right? And so I sort of look at that, and I needed some variance and the ability to have some upside. And I think that's what the trade did to me.
I wonder why people don't like the trade. Because
they think I'm selling a top 5 dynasty asset.
Yeah, I mean, you can just look at it this way. So you're going from Michael Thomas to AJ Green. What makes up for that? I guess if you're low on Fournette, which I know you're not, I'm not. He's a guy that I'm buying. So I guess if you're low on him, then that doesn't make up the difference. But I mean, you also got Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson had a down year last year. He was QB9. So he didn't even have a Russell Wilson year, and he's still going to help you immensely because of, the increase from, in production from Derek Carr to him.
And by way of context, the difference between, so Derek Carr would be my starter in this format last year. Russell Wilson averaged 23.2 points per game. Derek Carr averaged 15.8.
Yeah.
And if you look, essentially the difference between Russell Wilson, who was quarterback 7 in this format, and Ben Roethlisberger, who was quarterback 3, is a point a game, right? So that's he finished his quarterback 7, sure, but there's a pretty big gap between Russell Wilson and Derek Carr, and I don't know. I think that's in start one leagues, right? People don't typically value quarterback that high. I tend to think it's a mistake. I'm not a guy that's going to draft Mahomes in the second round, but I think the difference between quarterback 18 and quarterback 5 is a big deal, so that's sort of the way I come at it. And I'm sort of out on Derek Carr. I'm just not a big fan of what I've seen for a lot of respects, but just that alone, plus the Fournette thing, and I don't know, the pick really isn't that much of a move, to be honest with you.
So Chris in the chat asked, does Fournette play in Jacksonville this year, and does he get 250 touches?
Yes and yes.
Yeah, I think that the Fournette stuff about them wanting to trade him or cut him or whatever was just media BS, right? Like, he was a top 5 NFL draft pick. Like, they weren't going to cut him for no reason. And as it turns out today, the news came out that they're likely going to move on from Carlos Hyde, which I think we all expected anyway. So,
yeah.
250 touches. I mean, as long as he stays healthy, like, aren't they just going to feed him the ball? Like, I don't see any way around that. So I just they don't have enough there. Like, their game, regardless of the coach, regardless of the quarterback that they bring in, other players that they bring in, they just don't have enough. Even if you brought in Nick Foles, you don't have enough elsewhere to change your game plan from running the ball down your throat and playing really great defense, right? Like,
Hey, and by the way, he was good last year.
yeah, well, that's the other thing that people don't understand. Like, if you look at his numbers when he came back, like, he was putting up 20-point games consistently. So I don't know. I guess the injury issues is in people's mind, or maybe they don't like him because of him not being, not catching passes. That's the one that gets thrown at me all the time, and I'm like, who cares if he catches passes?
Passes a game last year.
Yeah,
he had 20. I think he had 22 catches in 8 games.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a pace of 48 catches over a 16-game season. Who's really going to complain about that? I mean, again, narrative things that just aren't true. I don't know. I think they mishandled him last year, but I think he gets healthy, and I don't know. I think injury prone's I think injury prone is something you can capitalize in the trade market, I guess is what I would say. So, I did follow up the trade with a couple more trades. Tell me what do you think of these? Traded Deon Cain for Peyton Barber.
Love that. It's funny because that was the one guy that you were talking about before you took over, or after. I don't know if it was after you took over the team or before you actually took the team, but that was one of the guys that you had pointed out, and I was like, wow, I can't believe someone is going to bite on Deon Cain. Sure enough, they did. I guess
I tried to shop him for a 2022 to everybody.
Yeah,
no one wanted him. So the guy offered me back a third, and I just said, hey, what about Peyton Barber instead? And he did it. So that was pretty good. I don't know. I just like sort of, I just think that's an efficiency move primarily.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't think Peyton Barber is a huge upside guy, but I'll know exactly when to start him. So and I like him more than the market. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And then here's a fun one too. I gave up. So the guy that I traded, it was interesting. The guy that I traded Michael Thomas to,
yep.
When the league rolled over, was like, all right, the league rolled over, I'm rebuilding. And I think he had like 111. Like, he had a relatively decent team. I didn't study him too particularly closely, but I was surprised that he was in a position that he wanted to rebuild.
Yeah.
And I think this was a startup last year, so I was sort of surprised by that. So we make this trade. He makes another trade he tries to pick up some future picks and basically moves off Lamar Jackson. And then he offers me LaShawn McCoy. This was pretty interesting. He offered me LaShawn McCoy and 405 for 301. And so I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't think McCoy's got the most upside in the world, but man, you're basically treating him as outside the top 150 in startup drafts. That's just seems low to me. So I was like, yeah, especially in a class where people aren't valuing rookie picks. I was like, that's a real discount. So of course, instead of just accepting the trade, I have to renegotiate with him. And so I end up essentially, there was a bunch of receivers that didn't have any value to me on the team. Kendrick Bourne was on the roster, TJ Jones, just some, filler types. I said, how about we do, how about instead of you giving me back 405, I'll give you 301 for LaShawn McCoy and Rod Smith and just throw in 2 of my guys you can cut. And he did it. So
did he really?
Essentially I got LaShawn McCoy and Rod Smith for 301.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, yeah, I know there's some people that like talked up Kendrick Bourne or whatever, but he didn't have much value to me. But again, so now I've gone from essentially having no running backs to having Fournette, Ingram, McCoy, and Barber. Now, is that a championship level roster? I don't think so. But you sort of look at it's much more viable in season. I've got Balaj. Let's see. I've got Balaj. I've just got some flexibility now, right? I've got Jerick McKinnon. I've got Dion Lewis. By
the way, you're gonna be able to flip. Well, I like Thompson. You're gonna be able to flip McKinnon at a later date once we get to camp and he starts showing out, which I think he will. That's going to be another flippable asset. I doubt you're going to keep him.
I should be able to get a 2021 for him. I would imagine at some point.
Oh, once the off season, or once they actually get in pads and stuff, and you start hearing these glaring reports again, you'll get a 2021 without question.
I have no doubt. Do the same thing for Mark Ingram in season if need be, right? I mean, this just gives me more viable pieces. Like even if I'm not a contender this season, I could resell McCoy to someone that needs it in season for a second if I need to. You know what I mean? Like I just I sort of look at all those things and I don't know. I saw value, and is this team going to contend? Maybe not, but I need to do some more work on the edges. But it's certainly more interesting than it was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I would say.
So I think people don't see the value in Rod Smith too. Like I just took him late in the startup that I'm doing. So let's just hypothetically, and we have more questions in the chat, so we should probably get to those. But hypothetically, if week 2 comes around and Ezekiel Elliott blows out his knee, right, and Rod Smith takes over, where does Rod Smith finish on the season? Running back amongst running backs.
He's a free agent.
Is he?
See, that's the interesting part to me is. And especially when I'm doing a rebuild, like when I'm doing an orphan, when I'm adopting an orphan, doing a rebuild type deal, those things are interesting to me because, like, here's a guy I think that can play, right? And I think it's probable, likely that he goes back to Dallas. But if he doesn't, right, there's a scenario where he has a better shot at being a starter.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's not necessarily so much a straight 2 role. Is Dallas a fallback option? I think so. But I think that there might be a market for a guy like him who, all of those things has shown pretty well on limited touches so far. And so I sort of look at those things and that's upside to me. Again, if Ezekiel Elliott goes down, and having Zeke's backup is, especially with his workload and his risk off the field, having his backup is never I don't think, especially at that cost, which is essentially 405, is essentially what it was. I don't think it's ever a bad, high upside investment.
I just think Smith is first of all, Ohio State Buckeye, so he gets points for that. But I just think that he is a serviceable backup, and I think it's likely he goes back to Dallas. I didn't know that he was a free agent, so whatever. But I mean, could he end up on the Jets? Could he end up in Tampa Bay? Like in a backup role? Like I love him. I think he is just a workhorse. So I'm not saying that you should go out and be trading 20 seconds for him or anything like that. But I mean, a guy that's on waivers, the upside that he has. Alan Kuhn said, "What sites do you use to find orphan teams looking at safe leagues now?"
It's exactly where I went.
Yeah, and so I think the thing with that is they're constantly putting them up. So you kind of just have to check back daily because it will change, or every couple days. And then the other good place is just Twitter and following people in the industry. I know Chad Parsons will retweet a bunch of them. And also Tim Torch does as well. So
yeah, if you follow MFL, they retweet everything too. So
yeah,
that's one place that I do. I have found some people through there. I think I found a couple leagues actually through there, or met up with a commissioner through there and playing a couple of his leagues. So yeah, that's certainly an option as well. Your startup, what do you think about the startup landscape right now?
So this is like the ultimate time where you don't have a lot of hot takes on Twitter by people in the industry. So you are going primarily off of your gut and what you know and your feel for things. And so I really like it. Like I think you just have to stick to your guns, right? Like at this point, if you are normally swayed by data that you see coming in, in May and June, and that will change your mind on players. You don't have that as much right now. So it's totally off of your feelings on players and player evaluation and building teams and stuff like that. So I love it. Because I stick to my guns with everything. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun right now. There's not a ton of parity at the top of the draft from what I've seen. Like I was everything was as expected for me. I will say that in the later rounds, I mean, I guess it's nothing different than any other time, but people are all over on players right now because you just don't know where these guys are going. Where a lot of them are going. The one I wanted, one of the players that I wanted was Chris Warren. And he went insanely high. Like I couldn't even. I think it was around 10 that he got taken.
Wow, that's really
or
high.
it was either 10 or 11.
Wow,
And I was just like, well, shit. I was going to take him around like 16, But so it's just like any other time of year when it comes to the late rounds. You just got to take your guys. So but yeah, there wasn't anything that is unexpected. The one thing that I will say is unexpected is people are actually willing to give up 2021st easier than I thought, which is crazy.
Really?
But yeah, because it's crazy. Well,
in a startup, I think, right?
Yeah, in a startup. Yeah,
yeah. For sure. I got 2 of them. I think you got like 6 or some crazy.
Yeah, I got 5. Yeah, I was surprised, and it's funny because like I was trying to make a deal early on in the draft with the guy, and he was like I don't want to give up my 2021st. I'm like, okay, well, we can work deals, other ways of doing it, And so he came back to me like 4 rounds later, and he says, what do I have to do to get this pick? And I just said, you know what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
You got to give up that 2021st. And it's almost like I don't know, like a drug dealer with a druggie. Like, you know what you got to do to get the pick, bud. Like,
yeah.
And I was surprised that I was able to get so many of them. And I don't think I'm going to win the league this year. But it is scary, the core that I have. So with the 2021st, and having the wide receivers that I got and some of the value picks at running back. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in this league, and it's Tim Torch and I, my compadre over at UTH, and I think we're in round 17, 18. I was stunned. Actually, on analyticsofdynasty.com, I posted some. I did a couple of articles on the trade, or excuse me, on the draft, and I did a little visual of like the pace at which players and positions went off, which was I thought that was interesting. It's just a different way to sort of see positional runs. I sort of like that idea of looking at drafts a little bit. Yeah, it's sort of fell in love with that idea in the book, and then
you were calling out the runs before they were happening, which is pretty amazing.
Well, the interesting part was like, I don't know, like Tim, like I was stunned. And listen, I've done some work, and I actually retweeted someone who did some really interesting tight end analysis of like the quote tight end premium leagues, and I think he specifically looked at like 1.5 PPR.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought this for a while, and the sort of the way I look at the warp data and stuff, that's probably going to be like my next project. I would say is to look more in depth at it. And, when scoring changes, sort of see what happens. But just on my general baselines, right? I think there's more digging I can do. But on my general baselines, the moving up of the points to basically 1.5, it makes the tight end position as a whole more valuable, right? Because they score more points, but I don't think it makes the top right? I don't think it boosts everyone, but I don't think it makes the top significantly more valuable. And in this draft, I mean, it was crazy. The and I had a conversation with a couple of people on Twitter about sort of the top 3 tight ends, and essentially the tight end 3 this year was George Kittle, and George Kittle scored more points than any tight end 3 in the past 11 years. He was the most since 08. And I suspect if I went back a lot further, he might be the highest tight end 3 ever, because there wasn't a ton of tight end scoring way before that. But it's definitely since 08, and he's got to be, if not the highest, one of the couple highest tight end 3s ever. I don't expect sort of that, right? So the top of the position was higher relative to the position, historically speaking. I just bet on those things not to happen, right? When you have an outlier, I think going into the next year, betting on the outlier to occur again, is something that you just got to be really, really careful about. And look, George Kittle sort of fits he's going to be if he continues elite production, he's going to be one of the biggest outliers in terms of draft pedigree at tight end ever.
Yeah.
It's still early, right? It's his year 2. But what I found fascinating was, right, so, all right, fine, you take him in as tight end 2 at 203, right? The tight end 2 to tight end 3 conversation, I think that's rich for him a little bit. Like, he totally deserved it in 2018. He was great, the whole 9. I think the relativity of it is what gets me, right? So if you want to take him there, it's fine, but taking him 15 overall over Ertz, which is 66 picks ahead of OJ Howard, who was tight end 4. David Njoku goes 68 picks later. Hunter Henry goes 70 picks later. Evan Ingram goes 71 picks later. I mean, the trade-off between what you're taking there, right? You're passing on Juju Smith-Schuster and Mike Evans, and those types of alpha 1 wide receivers, and are coming back with guys in the, I think it was I can check, but I think at that point when it came back around, you're looking at wide receiver 30.
Yep.
In that range. And it's Alshon Jeffrey, who I like, Tyler Lockett, Calvin Ridley, like Chris Godwin, Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd. That's who you were getting coming back around. And I just look at those things and it's like, I don't think the gap between Ingram and Howard and these guys that got hurt last year is as big as that market value is. So we were sort of in the second tier. And like you said, we knew it was coming. We just didn't know when. Right. And I didn't expect it to fall 6 rounds past where the original tight ends went. This is 1.75, but PPR, for tight ends, I didn't expect it to go that late. But just when you think about maybe I'm wrong, but I can't imagine you can feel good at taking George Kittle at 15 overall and passing on Mike Evans and watching 5.5 or 6 rounds go by until, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, and OJ Howard, David Njoku go off. I can't imagine
really
great about that.
Is there really a debate on this? Like I think there is on Twitter, right?
Yeah,
with you, because there's always a debate with you on Twitter with someone. But it's such an outlier. I mean, you're talking about what's more likely. Like, so I'm in a 1.5 points per reception for tight ends. So Kelsey scored 344 points in this league. Ertz 336, and then Kittle at 301. So 43 points from the number 1 overall. But number 4 was Eric Ebron at 255. So like 45 points between Ebron and Kittle. Like, what is more likely? That Kittle gets up to where Kelsey is at 344, or that he drops down to where Ebron is and is tight end 4 with 250 points? Like, isn't it more likely that Kittle doesn't make the jump up with Ertz and Kelsey? It's more likely that he's one spot lower in the 255 range. Like I think that that's more likely. So I don't know how anyone could take Kittle at 15 overall. It's insane to me because the variance between the top tight ends and the lower tight ends is I think if anyone outside of Kelsey and Ertz from what we have seen right now is it could be anything. You know, Kittle could be tight end 10 next year. I don't think that's likely, but
well, and you're betting on, and I don't like to think about injuries and all that stuff, like, but you are betting on exactly what happened to happen again. Right, you're betting when you make that pick, you're essentially betting that Kittle is going to perform like Rob Gronkowski.
Well, I don't think
that
that's
just
the case,
does not
though.
happen long term.
I don't think that that's what they're betting on, though, Jordan. I think what they're betting on is that Kittle is taking the leap up to number one, right? If you're taking him at 15 overall, and was he taken over Kelsey and Ertz?
He was taken over Ertz.
Over Ertz, so behind Kelsey. I mean, to take him that high, I think that not for him to do it again, but to make another jump. That's what they're betting on, right? I think that that's more likely. I mean, if you're taking him at 15, isn't that what you're saying? That he's going to be
up? It basically has to be Rob Gronkowski to pay that off.
Yeah, exactly. Like the elite of the elite seasons of tight ends.
Yeah. I just I don't know exactly how to feel on Kittle because of the sort of draft pedigree. It's just something we don't really have great comps for him from where he came from. But I can tell you this, if I can make a bet 7 rounds later on Ingram or right, I'm not doing it in a vacuum, right? I don't need to necessarily evaluate Kittle in a vacuum, right? It's more of a comparative thing to me, right? If I can wait 5, 6, 7 rounds and get Hunter Henry, Howard, Ingram.
Did you get Ingram?
No, we took Joku.
Okay.
We specifically took Joku to stack him with, well, Mayfield. Tim liked Joku more than Ingram, and I was on board because we were stacking him with Mayfield. Like, that's essentially the decision making. Which was fine. Like I think him and Ingram are really close. So I probably, if it was me on my own and I didn't have Mayfield, I probably would have taken Ingram. But that's just, I mean, I think they're close.
I have Ingram ahead. I would have Ingram ahead of Joku. But I mean, I think both Joku should have his breakout this year. This should be a big year for him.
I think so.
If it's going to happen. And then Ingram, like with all the Beckham news swirling, like Ingram he's the one that if they get rid of Beckham and he is so dependent on Beckham not being there, like everyone thinks, then essentially if they get rid of Beckham, then he is going to make that leap to an elite tight end again. Like that's what I see happening if Beckham goes. So, I mean, that's a bet that I like. It has been frustrating. Last year was frustrating watching Giants games if you owned Evan Ingram, though.
Yeah.
So,
and the injuries and stuff. I don't know. I think injuries are depressing that second tier down, right? And that's one thing that I really like. I find myself really finding value in is betting on injury bounce backs. Right. I think you get good value there. Again, Fournette, I tend to sort of be on that type of thing, especially when they're high pedigree guys, because those high pedigree guys can survive that sort of downtick.
For sure. Yeah. So, I mean, Ingram being a first round pick.
Yeah. Exactly.
It definitely helps. But I mean, like when
you're floor there, I mean, that's a real big floor.
Yeah. And then, so the other thing that you had brought up before about it was, like, is there some sort of discrepancy with like that you have with them with taking tight ends higher because it's tight end premium?
I don't
like. Is that what people are saying to you? The argument is, well, it's tight end premium, so all of them need to get bumped up. Like the tight ends are more valuable because I think it's I'm not sure that that's an argument either.
I'm not sure it's the argument either, but like you look at, I don't know. That's not what happened, right? Mm-hmm. So what happened was you look at ADP, and I'm just glancing here That's not what happened, right? I'm looking at one QB and I'm trying to figure out there's probably 20. I mean, they went the next tier. So basically the Howard, Ingram, Henry, Joku, Ebron tier didn't go higher, right? They went about what you would expect based on, their ADP. And what happened is that the top guys went higher.
Yeah.
And so and again, I think that the people, and again, Kittle actually gets hurt in tight end premium because he didn't catch a ton of passes. He caught a lot of long passes. Right? I think this guy averaged like 15 or 16 yards per catch, right? He actually gets hurt by that, which people don't necessarily realize. It wasn't catches, it was yardage that he had a ton of last year. So it actually hurts him relative to the other two of Kelsey and Ertz. But yeah, I mean, it didn't boost the tight end position as a whole. It boosted the top three, which that's Correct. The thing that I have a problem with. That's what gets me about the conversation is I don't think that's warranted, right? I think you can move the tight end position sort of as a collective up a little bit, but I don't think, when the tight ends 4 through 8 aren't moving up, paying that premium price for tight end 3 is, I think that's a loss.
So isn't this similar to quarterback passing touchdowns, 6 points versus 4 points? Like I've been saying for years. So when you go to and this is good because we were just talking about it. So when you go to quarterback passing touchdowns being worth 6 points, it boosts everybody in the quarterback position, right? Everyone gets 6 points. That just makes me want one of the top guys more. That does not mean that they get a boost where they should be drafted. It just, I want to make sure that I get one of those guys. And so it's the same thing with the tight end premium to me. I don't think that tight ends should be drafted like all of them should be drafted higher. To me, I just want to make sure that I get one of those top 8-ish guys, top 6-ish guys. Like I'm not going to break the bank or anything like that and draft like a Kelsey in the top 15. Like I'm just not going to do that. Like let someone else do that. But we're smart dynasty owners, right? Like we want to get value on guys. Well, the value is not Kittle or Kelsey in the top 15. Isn't it Evan Ingram in round 6, Joku in round 6, 7, somewhere in there? Like I don't want to,
right?
Yeah, or round 8, 9. Like I don't want to skip out on tight end in that case. I just want to make sure that I get one of those guys with upside. OJ Howard, even right. I'm not a big Hunter Henry guy, but even Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that would be my move. We got a question I got a question on Twitter. How much would you pay for Mahomes in a 1 QB league? So I went back and I just grabbed some of the data from my book.
Mm-hmm.
And between 2008 and 2017, so that 10-year time period, there was basically 16 quarterbacks drafted in the first 2 rounds of startup drafts.
Okay.
So you're basically looking at 1.5 a year. Right now, let's see. I can find it right now. Mahomes is going at 21 overall, which is inside that line. You go down another, let's see. Man, it's losing it here. Let's see. Julek's got to be here someplace, right?
In a 1 quarterback league, he's going 21.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So, like historically speaking, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
But again, here's the deal. Wow, this is why Deshaun Watson is going 67. So somewhere in the middle of the 6th round. So what you're seeing is essentially Mahomes. This is similar to the conversation we were just having. Is you're paying a huge premium, right? And what you'll notice, and I'm just looking at DLF's February ADP, between 67 and 76, there's three guys, right? Deshaun Watson, Andrew Luck, and Mayfield basically go off in that range there. So in a round of each other. And then Rodgers, Wilson, and Goff go basically a round later. So you have 7 quarterbacks in the top 100, but 6 of them outside the top 5 rounds. Mm-hmm. And so, that's a huge premium on Mahomes. So as a team building exercise, historically, I think Mahomes that high is appropriate, but I guess I would see value later on down the line in guys like Rodgers and Wilson, just sort of looking at this thing. I think, like you talked about, I'd rather have tight end, in that 4 through 8 range. I think the same thing at quarterback. Like I look at Aaron Rodgers and I think 87 overall is a screaming value. It's tough for me to not love that. Again, looking with who he's going with, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, Baker, and I love Baker, but I think I'd rather have Rodgers than Baker. Especially, that would be what that late, especially. And quarterback premium is I think a little bit different. That's a little bit different of a conversation. But yeah, in start one, I mean, give me the guy that's got the massive upside. I mean, Rodgers has got massive upside. Finished as a top 5 quarterback, and no one's given him any respect last year, right? I mean, all of that. I would rather take that. So I think Mahomes historically is appropriately priced, but I wouldn't want to pay that price for him.
Same. Like I don't think 21 overall is bad for him. I mean, like you said, historically. But I'm not drafting him at 21 overall. In fact, I think you and I had conversations maybe on one of these YouTubes. He was going in the 3rd round at one point. So I had no issue drafting him in the 3rd round, especially if you're trading out of round 1 and then maybe trading out of a high 2nd round pick, and you have a couple, like a late 2nd, several 3rd round picks, and a couple 4th round picks. Grabbing Mahomes in the 3rd round made sense to me because at the time you were getting guys like Nick Chubb at the in the 3rd round, and you could grab Juju in the 2nd round. But unfortunately, things have changed a little bit. But I mean, I'm not going to draft him at 21 overall. I can't see that ever happening. There might be scenarios with leagues and setups with, if there's a quarterback and 9 flexes, maybe I would do that. Maybe I would splurge on him, like trade out and then grab Mahomes at 20 in the late or early 20s and then just draft all running backs. So I don't know. Yeah, something like that.
What's your there's an interesting question. Is there a player we disagree on?
Yeah, I've been waiting for that.
I'm not sure.
I don't know that there's gonna be anyone. I've been trying to think of this. So I know that I like Michael Thomas more than you do, but I don't think we're far off on it. That one,
Michael Thomas, just to give you an idea, went off wide receiver, and this is super flex, and there's tight end premiums in this draft I was in. He goes off wide receiver 5 in the late 2nd.
Okay, in the one that I'm in, he went off. Let's see. So he went 111 in the one that I'm in, and he was wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, wide receiver 5. So
sorry, I made a mistake. He didn't go off it in the late 2nd. He went off at 201. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So, but wide receiver 5 nonetheless. The one that I'm in is best ball also.
What do you think about Dalvin Cook?
I think I'm right where you are with him. I probably like him more than some people, but I was not high on him coming out of college. I didn't want to draft him at 105 or 104 or whatever. I liked him a little bit more. I own him on a team just because probably the worst trade I've ever made was I flipped Christian McCaffrey in the offseason last year for Dalvin Cook straight up. And the thought process is because people didn't really like Christian McCaffrey. And people seem to have this affinity with Dalvin Cook. I think that he's going to get valued super high this year, and I think I'm going to end up trading him. I don't think he's going to be on my team. Because for whatever reason, people really love him. And when we're talking about some of these other players like Kerryon Johnson, Nick Chubb, I like them better than Dalvin Cook. and I don't think he's going to get to a price where I would be buying him at. So
That's fair. Let's do some rapid fire on some of these. I got some questions on Twitter. Let's just grab. I got a question about Jay Ajayi. What rookie pick would you give for Jay Ajayi?
What rookie pick? I think it's like a. I'm not high on him. Late third.
Okay.
I think that's about right.
To give you an idea, in this draft that we were at, we had this conversation. We were on the clock at 1504, which is 172 overall. Again, super flex. There's some tight end premium. We took 210 over Ajayi. Ajayi was in the conversation. We took 210 over him. I thought he would fall a little bit more. He didn't. Tim was upset with me about that. But that was more on me.
What round was that?
15th.
Okay, so that's funny you said that, because the draft that I'm in, round 1604, I took 210 over him, and he went 6 picks later at 1610.
I'm just gonna grab the. And again, these are super flex, so it's a little bit tougher to use my rookie pick.
Your little chart.
My rookie pick chart, because it's just a little bit different, but let's see.
Well, I know what it's going to say, because at picks, or at round 16, late second round picks were a great value.
Yeah. So essentially, I think, if memory serves, so rookie pick 25. So basically, the start of the third round of rookie picks should be right around pick 160 in a startup. So yeah, they're. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see where 301 went off the board. 301 went off the board basically 30 picks after that. So I think they're catching up slightly. Like 306 is off the board at 221, which is still late. They start getting closer together as the rounds go along. But yeah, I mean, it's I think rookie picks, generally speaking, are undervalued. Marlon Mack had a 102, which is just crazy to me, to give you an idea.
That was the other thing that I was struggling with, was, where the rookie picks, like the top rookie picks, like according to your chart, like 101 is worth what, pick 20?
Right about there. Yeah, I think it's 20.
101 went at 61 overall.
Yeah, ours, we took 101 at 52. I would say, again, the super flex aspect of this, there's a couple of projects I'm going to work on sort of once the book tour, and maybe this will probably be a summer project for me, is sort of how to go back and look, because I don't have historical Superflex ADP, sort of to try and figure out a way to incorporate Superflex in my rookie pick chart, because I think that there are guys, the quarterback position bumps them back. What I think I'll ultimately do is start comparing them to the rookie picks to where they would go in relation to running backs and receivers, right? So what rookie pick sort of fits in with what running back and receiver, and that'll give you a better guide. I think that's one way that I'll sort of move to analyzing rookie picks in startup and super flex drafts. But there's a couple of questions that I got on Twitter. It's in the book. I would sort of take that, and it would just take me basically a couple afternoons of sitting down and actually working on the data. But the data is actually in the book, so you can look at it. I will probably write something on it at some point to actually, draw it out, to sort of actually put a number on it and put a sort of currency on that. But you can sort of look at the book and sort of see where the rookie picks are going, and then, average out what, how many running backs and receivers that is by the round, and sort of give yourself an idea to sort of cancel out Superflex. So that's a project that I will work on at some point, but that's a common question.
It's really weird, because I asked you if the chart changes because of Superflex. I texted you about that, and you told me no.
Well, it does.
So you lied. So you lied to me. Okay, good.
I didn't know. Well, what I would say is I don't have a way to change the chart for Superflex right now. What I do think there's a way to. I think what it matters is where the rookie pick is in relation to like what Right. So I don't know if rookie pick 101 historically is 20 overall, that probably puts it about being, a combination of combination of running back receiver, probably like 18, I would say, something like that. Historically, that's about where it would fit. And so you sort of look at it that way, I think is the way to really look at it and compare it to, like, give yourself an idea on where running back 18, the combination of running back and receiver 18 is going in your draft. And that would historically be where it would fit in Superflex, right?
Yeah.
Compared to those positions. Now, does it bump it up a little bit in startup or in Superflex? I think so. I think yes. So, I think you should probably peg it a little bit more towards the running backs and receivers, because that's really what the historical ADP is looking at, and then sort of factor in a couple quarterbacks in that, right? So that's a long way to say it adjusts, it adjusts to it. But to give you an idea, there were, let's see, 11 running backs in the first 2 rounds of this draft, and 8 receivers. So historically, the 101 would have been somewhere in the 3rd round, right about in the 3rd round. Real late 2nd or early 3rd. And so it goes 2 full rounds after that. And that's that's 10 to 15 skill position players between, lower than it went. You know what I mean? So, I think it's, is this class weaker than the normal? Yes. But I think the 101 is going to rise in value is what I'll say. So, so that's sort of the calculus I think that you would have to make, and how to make that decision.
By the way, you said you guys got 101. Who are you going to draft at 101?
You know what the best part about that is we don't need to pick right now. We don't know. So
yeah, I figured
probably not anybody, to be honest with you, but we'll see.
Well, yeah. Okay, another rapid fire. What are you doing with Damian Williams?
Man, this is a question that I've talked about a lot. I think I'm holding for a late 2019 first, and I'd sell for a random 2020 first.
So same with me. I have no issue keeping him if the right deal comes around. And again, it can change, right? If the right deal comes around, like Chris on my podcast, he traded him for Rashad Penny straight up.
I think I would do that.
So like, if you can do something like that, I mean, I criticize him. I'm like, couldn't you have gotten like a 2023 with it? I mean, it never hurts to ask, but someone with like high pedigree like that, I would have done. I'm higher on Penny now, but like something like that, or like a 2021, but or maybe if I can throw him into a deal for like an elite player, like can you add him to Aaron Jones and get, I don't know, Fournette or Kamara or something like that? Like I would do something like that, but like I'm not selling him for a 2022 or or a late one this year. Like I don't want to draft pick this year. So
I just got a message on Twitter. 101 or George Kittle. It's a 12-team PPR Superflex, heavy IDP. I'm not super into IDP. I don't know if you are. I'm not. And he says, I own Kittle and Jack Doyle.
So it's IDP. Is it heavy IDP?
So it says heavy IDP with Superflex.
And it's not tight end premium?
I'm assuming it's not tight end premium.
Oh God, Chris posted Rashad Penny for MVP. I mean, assuming it's not tight end premium, I think I'd take 101 just because I'm going to flip it for. I don't even know what you're going to be able to get for 101 come draft time, to be honest with you. So it's going to be good, though. It's going to be, for all the talk of it being a bad rookie class, what you're going to be able to flip 101 for or add to a deal is going to be crazy. Like,
yeah, you'd take 101 over Kittle.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, I think the market would say take Kittle.
The market would say that.
Here's what I have. Let's play this out for a second.
Sure.
If you take Kittle and trade him for the 101,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's assume that you right now you have this liquid asset. Let's assume that you've got right 2.5, 3 months before your rookie draft.
Sure.
Is there a scenario where you could move like 101 for 108 and Evan Ingram? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in play?
I actually think you can get more than that. Like, I think you could be able to get Ingram plus the 108 in that scenario.
Yeah,
like, because
could you move down from 101 to 108 and like pick up Evan Ingram? Like, you think you could do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Right? Like,
yeah, I think without question. I mean, Kittle's got to be at this point. Kittle has to be some sort of. He's got to be a sell because people are like drooling over him, and I get it. Like, I've seen him play; he's awesome. I even traded for him during the season, but I mean, we can't get too cute, right? Like, unless it's like a tight end premium, like
it's not tight end premium.
Yeah, I would much rather sell him, and I would rather have a lot of these other tight ends over him, given the price that you have to pay for him.
So here's an interesting part. George Kittle is basically going as in DLF's ADP. He's going as player 29, right? So we talked about where the 101's going in, non-superflex is probably going somewhere in the I would say the fourth round, maybe somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. If you sort of take out the superflex boost in my draft, it probably goes late third. So I think it's pretty close, probably market value wise. Historically, Kittle would be a bad 101, right? He would be below the 101 line. And I don't know who it's going to be. I have my hunch and suspicion about certain Alabama running back being the 101.
He's not currently, but
that's right. We will see. So I don't know. I think you trade George Kittle for the 101. I think it's I don't think the market would do that, but I think I probably would from a roster, from all the reasons we said, from roster construction, from all that stuff. I like the move to the 101. You might even be able to get a little bit more than that. Could you get like an ancillary tight end back? Would sort of be my question. Could you get an ancillary running back? Right. I think it's close. Could I juice up the deal to make me like it? You said it's this particular person. I'll reference them specifically. It's Jojo K _2K. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I didn't absolutely blow up his trade, but my thought would be to see if I can get another piece because I think you probably can.
I'm with you. I guess I just put such a premium on, like, I don't think it's hard to buy top tight ends in season unless it's like a tight end premium league, right? Which that is not. So I guess I just put such a premium on my running backs and my receivers that I'm just assuming, like I said, I bought Kittle in season last season, and I don't believe that I paid anything crazy. I'm looking up the trade now, but I don't, unless it's some sort of premium at tight end, I'm not really concerned about getting the tight end. I'd much rather upgrade, my running back position or one of those. In season, I paid Valdez Scantling, 211, Mark Andrews, Kyle Rudolph for George Kittle in a 2024. I mean, that's while he was performing at a high level in a one tight end league that doesn't have a premium on scoring. So it's not exactly hard to get these guys. I also traded for Kelsey in another league. So
yeah,
I don't think, what did I give up for Kelsey? Kelsey in season while he was going nuts was, where are you? Njoku, Deontay Foreman, and what ended up being the 111. I probably paid a little too much, but that's with the stacked team. And that's just a regular, one tight end, regular scoring. So
yeah, and if you look at I think I'd lean to the pick.
Yeah.
I think I'd lean to the pick, but I said I think you can get more for it. All right, more rapid fire. We're not good at rapid fire.
I know we suck at it.
In what situation? This is Dynasty Trades HQ pod. My friends over there.
I know.
In what situation would you draft a rookie wide receiver at 109 or later in a rookie draft over a running back? Couple of ways.
Wait, can you say the question again?
Yep. In what situation would you draft a rookie wide receiver at 109 or later in a rookie draft over a running back? I'm assuming that this is non-super flex. Yeah. I'm just sort of assuming that if it's super flex, I mean that I think that it's bumping, right? It's making the receiver and the running backs better. So you're closer to the sort of more elite receivers in a typical class because there's probably a couple quarterbacks mixed in there. I'm just going to assume that we're talking, non-quarterback premium or non-tight end premium. I think it's a select few, right? I identified basically 4 last year, right? I was Sutton, James Washington, Kirk and Traquan Smith, right? I picked essentially good metric prospects that were early day 2 picks, or I think with Traquan Smith, he might have been a 3rd if memory serves. But I liked him in the landing spot and all that stuff. I do a lot of work in my book about the average draft pedigree for players at certain ranges in rookie drafts, right? I would look at that and try and be ahead of that line, right? See who's falling compared to the historical rate. That would be something that I would look at. Compare sort of what is this if I'm picking at, 209, is this running back that I would pick a later day 3 pick in comparison to a round 2 receiver who for some reason is falling in rookie drafts, right? I would sort of make that calculus. That would sort of be one thing I would look at. And I would just identify, a handful of, in different classes, it's going to be different, right? In 2014, it was easier to do this than, last year because the receiving class was really good. But I would look I would want to find good metric prospects that for some reason are falling. And those 4 guys that I identified did. And so that's where I sort of took them at, basically at bookends of the, the late 1st into the late 2nd. Those were sort of the 4 players that I had in the range. So I felt comfortable taking them. And to give you an idea, I had Traquan Smith on the board after Kalen Ballage. That was sort of how that broke down. So that's sort of the valuation. I didn't really see anyone that I loved in a tier after Kalen Ballage, but I like Traquan Smith. That's sort of the calculus that I went through.
Well said.
Trade Kenny Galladay and DJ Moore for Julio? Question mark.
Kenny Galladay and DJ Moore for Julio?
Yeah.
I think I kind of I don't really want Galladay. I'm not sure I love the trade. If you're competing, I think I would take Julio. I like DJ Moore a lot, but I don't like Galladay at all. I wonder if there's another deal to be. I don't know the roster construction and whether they're competing or not. If you're competing now, I would much rather have Julio.
Yeah, I like Julio on that deal.
Chris Carlson on our little chat says, I want to sell Galladay while his value is sky high this offseason. What kind of players picks would you be looking for in a return for Kenny Galladay?
I'm not trading rookie picks. I'm not trading Kenny Galladay for rookie picks.
Neither am I.
I don't think that's the way to exploit him. I think the way to exploit him is go Kenny Galladay and
something for a bit better piece.
Yeah, right. Kenny Galladay and something for Mike Evans, right? Kenny Galladay and something for Devontae Adams, right? Maybe one of these, Kenny Galladay for, give me a higher level player, Kenny Galladay and a small piece for Amari Cooper.
Okay, I got
something
one,
like
but
that.
I don't want you to say it. So Kenny Galladay and a 2019 late 2nd for Brandon Cooks.
Yes.
There you go.
That's fine.
Hmm.
Surprised you would need to put a late second on that. Where's Brandon Cooks going? They're pretty close to each other.
They're close. They're close in ADP. Well, I mean, yeah. If you find the right owner,
Can you get Corey Davis plus for Kenny Galladay?
not in any league that I'm in.
Because you probably own both.
Because I own Corey Davis in every league I'm in. So
there you go. What's your strategy and plan for a Superflex startup draft? Oh, did we exhaust that? Sorry, I thought we were. I didn't know if we did we too rapid fire the Galladay thing?
No, we're good. Okay. We can. The Corey Davis part. I mean, yeah, I think you can actually get Corey Davis plus for Kenny Galladay, just not in the leagues that I'm in. So the Superflex. So this
is Caleb Smith, by the way.
Okay. So this is probably so we probably don't differ on a lot of players, but we might differ on this. Like I know in listening to Chad on UTH, exploiting the premiums, like if it's a tight end premium and a Superflex premium, I know he says to hit those hard. And I think that you kind of subscribe to that as well. However, when you and I were talking about our drafts that were coming up, you said you were punting on tight end for the most part. Or when you and I talked about strategy, and that's kind of how I went about it. Although I don't think you exactly punted on tight end in the league that you're in. So we might disagree on this. Like I want elite quarterbacks, but I am not taking quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds. Like I am not going to go quarterback the first 2 rounds.
I think you need to do that right now.
You think you do need to do it right now?
I don't think you do.
I don't think you do either. From the drafts that I've seen, even last season and all the mocks, I think you are still in really good shape taking quarterbacks in the 3rd and 4th round, or the 3rd and 5th. And I think you can actually go outside of the 5th round as well. Like where'd you get Brady in yours?
Quarterback 27. Isn't that sick?
Yeah, and it's funny enough. I got Brady in the one that I'm in as well. So
yeah, I got him at quarterback 27 in the 7th round.
Yeah, I think I took
after
him
Andy Dalton, by the way.
Oof. I think I took him earlier. I got him at 604. And I was fine, but I know that the
quarterback 3.
No, he's my quarterback 2.
Interesting. Who's your quarterback 1?
Cam Newton. So this is
that's risky for me. That would be something that would be risky for me.
For sure is. I waited. I was getting such good deals on my 2021. I basically punted this year. Gotcha. So I kind of like the idea of grabbing Cam Newton because if something happens to him and he doesn't play, my team's looking better for 101, right? With the way I have my team set up and everything, I actually think that I'm going to be able to acquire quarterbacks rather easily, even though it's a QB premium, like a super flex.
So. Did you trade 101 for Kerryon Johnson right now?
101 in this year, 2019?
Yes.
Absolutely. I don't, although you might, if you waited, you might actually be able to get Kerryon Johnson plus. I don't know that it's likely, but I think it's possible.
Interesting. So. Yeah, let's see. A couple more questions here. Does Philip Lindsay finish 2019 as a top 15 PPR running back? This is stashes.
Mm-hmm. Jordan?
No.
How do you feel about Philip Lindsay?
I'll take the over.
Okay. Yeah, so
over. Worse than I never understand this. I think he finishes as running back 16 or worse.
Yeah. I mean, just to be clear, I am buying Royce Freeman. So 100%. That ought to tell you how I feel about Philip Lindsay.
Royce Freeman's a very good I think Royce Freeman's a great ad in a orphan type rebuild right now.
I agree.
Bottom half first. Oh wait, hold on. Let's see. We already talked about that question. Sorry. I botched that.
By the way, where is Royce Freeman going in your draft?
Oh, Oh, we made a big bold move to trade up for him.
Did you?
Great question. We moved up for Royce Freeman. Oh, so here was an interesting thing. So again, you can follow this draft. Go to analyticsofdynasty.com. I did a couple of articles on it. Again, with the sort of visual layout of the draft, and I wrote up my decisions throughout the draft. I need to follow up with it because I think I did the first 100 picks, something like that. I will do some more. Hopefully, it'll be this weekend project. There's a certain game that's in town this weekend that might call my attention. Duke Syracuse super heavyweight matchup in the Carrier Dome, which will take up most of my Saturday. But hopefully, I will get some time at some point between now and then. Royce Freeman. Okay, so we were on the clock at 100 overall at 904. We had 3 wide receivers. We had we had Amari Cooper, Corey Davis, and Sammy Watkins. We passed on Will Fuller in favor of Sammy Watkins at 95 overall. We had 2 picks relatively close to each other at the at 811 and 904 through some trades, primarily trade downs. We get to 904, and Royce Freeman is there in bright lights, as well as Will Fuller. We pass. Our initial plan was to only take 3 wide receivers. It is a mandatory start 1 wide receiver league. We thought we could try and get away with only, a very tight core. Will Fuller, we just thought was too good of a value there, so we took him at 904 to basically be our wide receiver 4, and passed on Royce Freeman. We had the opportunity to trade up. Essentially, we traded our 10th and 11th round picks for a late 9th and a 12th. So basically, we flip flopped our picks essentially, moved up and moved back, I guess, for the 2 picks in the middle, and got Royce Freeman at 105 overall. So to give you an idea of who's going in that range, Tevin Coleman, Chris Carson went just before him, Kenyon Drake, Jerick McKinnon, James White went right after him. He was running back. Let's see. I can tell you right now. I think he was in the 30s, if memory serves. He was running back. No, he was running back 28. So I don't know. I look at that profile, that elite metric profile at over 220 pounds, and those guys hit, right? That's an arbitrage on Nick Chubb. To give you an idea, right? That's the type of profile that we're looking at. So yeah.
That's funny. You got Fuller at 904. I took Fuller at 808. I had pick 812 also, and I wanted to wait to 812 to pick Will Fuller, and I just said I'm not going to be okay not getting him. And I was hoping to get the story of this draft is like I got sniped within like 3 or 4 picks of every pick from 8th round on. 8 through 15 or something like that. It's obnoxious. But 8-12, I wanted to grab Sammy Watkins. He got picked 1 pick before me. And I ended up getting Royce Freeman at 10-04. And I was pretty ecstatic about that. But the funny thing is Rashad Penny was the player that I was actually going to target there, and he got taken at 10-03. So
yeah, I think he went. Yeah, I think he actually went. Let me see. He went earlier than that in mine.
Penny or Freeman? Or no, Penny.
Penny. Yeah. Let me see if I can find him quick. Penny went running back 25 in the 9th. Yeah. So and it's interesting to see some of these things, and that's, I guess, I mean, maybe this is a spot we can sort of wrap up, but I sort of, I think that's really instructive, right? When you get later in drafts, I think ADP matters less, right? In terms of, hey, it's a good sort of barometer of, generally speaking, where these guys are going, but the deviations on that number are pretty big. Yeah. So if you like a guy, I wouldn't. Again, there's some take him, even if it's a couple of rounds ahead of ADP. Like if you like a guy, he's the best player on your board, just do it, right? I think that's, do I want to reach 2 rounds on every single player I take? No. But if there's a guy, and Chad Parsons has a great thing on this at UTH that we talk about, which is, if there's a guy that you're going to pass on and he gets taken before your next pick that you're going to feel sick about, right? If that's going to make you feel sick, then just take him, right? Yep. Just take him. And I think that's something that, numbers and analytics, that can't really replicate that decision for you. Mm-hmm. But that's something that I think is important. Sometimes taking your guy, especially when he fits the right profile and all of those things, that Royce Freeman was that player for us, right? Be willing to take him, or if you have to move up to take him, take him. Don't pass on him because you think, oh, I can slide another round in value, and then be mad at yourself because you didn't take him. I think stepping up and taking a guy that you like, there will be a handful of those situations throughout the draft. And don't be afraid to move, especially when you're outside pick 100. Yep. Right? Don't be afraid to move up, take him a couple rounds earlier than the market would suggest, because I think that's a situation you're going to feel pretty good about long term.
And that's exactly why I took Will Fuller in that spot, because if I waited till 812, I was at 808, and if I waited to 812 and he got taken in between there, like, he kind of completed my core wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Corey Davis, Brandon Cooks, and then he was the fourth guy that I wanted. And I just said, like, I don't want to go without him, because that completed my core, right? Like, I was actually going to be sick if I waited 4 picks and he got taken, and I missed out on him. So yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, I just, you can't try to get cute. And so, like, my rule is, and this was just kind of a one-off, like, this was a February draft, obviously. My rule is, like, after round 10, I'm not going off ADP anymore. And you can probably do it at like round 8 or 9. I just think after that, you list out the players you want to draft, rank them, and just start picking them. Who cares? Like, I don't care about ADP at that point. So, because people are all over the place on these guys. And yeah, I know you wanted to wrap up, but like you have no idea if Nelson Aguilar is going to go in the 12th round or the 20th round or the 26th round. You have no idea. These guys like this could be anywhere. So,
yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. And it's just, these guys can go all over the place, and the numbers can be massive. I mean, I think the market would say we reached on Demetrius Harris, the tight end for Kansas City, at tight end 26. But again, we felt that's the player that we want, and we took him. And, tight ends are sort of matriculating their way off the board a couple around. And, if we liked a guy, let's take the guy. And that's sort of what we did. And I have a hard time feeling bad about that.
What round was that you took Harris?
Round 18. Like, you're looking at that round, like, in the players that are going in that round, he's a guy that we identified that we liked. And I think you just take him. Yep. And, that's something that, you have to feel comfortable about your decisions. And I think that was something we felt comfortable with.
All right, let's wrap up. One last question. Chris asked, what would it take for you to give up 101 right now?
Kerryon Johnson.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I think, like, I wouldn't sell short, but hey, could you give up 101 right now for Leonard Fournette? See, I would do that. Right? Yeah. I would take the Fournette side.
Yep. So would I.
And I just don't, that would be something that I would do. I would not sell, right? I would want to buy a, quote, depressed elite asset type. Could I trade 101 right now for Corey Davis? That might be something that I would do, right?
That was gonna be my suggestion, but at the same time, I think you can get more than Corey Davis, because again, depressed asset, people are going to be down on him. Corey Davis plus, could you get Corey Davis in a 2022nd? Like, I think that's within the realm of possibility. Fournette's another good one. Kerryon Johnson's another good one. Would you give up 101 for Geis?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super high on him, but I would
don't
take
think you
Geis.
need to. I don't think you need to.
I agree.
Yeah. And that's the funny part about the trade and the startup market, right? Because we're sort of in this deal. Those two markets, I think it's, the Geis went before the 101.
Mm-hmm.
He basically went as, I would say, essentially he's running back, wide receiver 23, 24, somewhere in that range. So that's, right in line with sort of what we were talking about earlier, with where the rookie pick should be going. Do I want, I feel pretty good about Geis long term. I think that people are down on the offense, so I don't think you necessarily need to go 101 straight for Darius Geis, but I like the profile as a depressed asset, so I'm interested in it, right? So I would be looking to do something like that. I don't think you need to necessarily do it straight up.
101 for Philip Lindsay.
You got to take. How can you pass on a 184-pound running back who was the most efficient running back in the NFL?
It's Lindsay with SAY at the end, not SEY. I gotta
remember that.
You're not good at it on Twitter, and people call you out on it. It's amazing.
I have learned that lesson.
By the way, I haven't been attacked for any Philip Lindsay hate lately, so and I don't think you have either, have you?
No, everyone's been attacking me for everything else. So it's fine. I'm totally fine with it, by the way. People think that I'm fine.
Yeah, and by the way, Chris said that he'll give up 101 for Corey Davis plus. No, you will not.
So, what do you think about Mike Williams as a top 20 dynasty wide receiver?
I do not think he is. And I know Karen on my podcast loves him. I don't think he's you and I had talked about Kirk, right? And you'd said, I wonder if he's a 2. That's how I feel about Mike Williams. I don't think he's this wide receiver 1. He's in the Kenny Galladay, whereas he might be the number 1 on his team. And I know Mike Williams has, Keenan Allen there, but I don't think Mike Williams ever is going to be on a team where he's this wide receiver 1 and the number 1 wide receiver on his team. I think he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver on his team at some point, probably. But that doesn't make him this wide receiver 1, right?
A dynasty wide receiver 1, you mean?
Yeah.
Someone just posted something, Josh Spiker on Twitter. I just managed to be going through it and just saw that. It was interesting. It actually looks like he's wide receiver 21 based on the thing. Chris Godwin ahead of him. It's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I think this has obviously been fun.
Yeah. This was a really good one, actually.
Yeah, we're going to probably be doing more of these, which is fun. I think talking a lot of rookie value and pick value and stuff going up to rookie draft time's good. This is a good time to talk value. One thing that I think for some content going forward is I want to start doing some more tracking of drafts. So what I'll probably be doing is having some, I want to have a list of sort of ongoing drafts on the site. And so that way you can look, hey, here's a similar format. Let's just have some ideas about what's going on with other drafts. So you get just some comparable marketplace stuff. There's so many different formats and everything. I just think that'd be something to look forward to. So I'll probably be doing some more work on that in the next couple of weeks. You got anything good coming up?
No, but I'd like to get another guest on with us at some point. Or
I have one
several. Yeah, I have a couple in mind, and maybe we'll grab Chris from my podcast and we can do one or something like that. No, we had on my podcast, Top Dog Dynasty, at Top Dog Dynasty on Twitter. We had a guest who just wrote a book. So he was episode number 40 and 41 because he's so fancy that he takes up 2 episodes every time he comes on. So we had you on there, which we got a lot of great feedback on, and people really seem to like everything that we talked about on there. So you should check that out. And then I'm on Twitter at AJWilly2. So
I like it.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a pleasure as always, and we will talk soon. Thank you.
See ya.